Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Digitalk Architects. Today, we have Kate with us. Kate, thank you so much for coming out and spending this next maybe an hour with us. Please go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kate. I live in Leadville, Colorado. I am a growth marketer, software engineer turned growth marketer turned AI SEO specialist. I'm starting a couple different agencies in January, as well as building out a proprietary software for the AI SEO space.
Very good. Okay, so you've transitioned from software engineering to AI-driven marketing with AI SEO now throw into that mix. Tell us about the experiences or moments that steer you into focusing in AI automations and business growth.
Yeah, I think a couple things led me to this. One, my dad, who's in his 70s, is very, very into AI. And so he kind of got me into that space 2 or 3 years ago when chat first came out. So I've been in that space for a little bit. Growth marketing also became so nebulous. Growth marketing started to encompass everything in the world, and it just got a little unwieldy. And I found that I wasn't able to serve my clients as well as I wanted to because it was such a wide breadth of things to do. And then I found out that I had a unique interest and new talent in AI SEO, and it kind of escalated from there. As everyone's like that's been on LinkedIn knows, it's massive right now. Everyone's very, very into it, and I kind of fell into the space and have been really enjoying being in one specific space instead of the really nebulous growth marketing area. So I was working as a consultant for 3 years. Before that, I was at Athletic Greens as a growth marketer, and it just became like a really insane industry, and I'm really happy to have it like scoped down a little bit right now.
Okay, so you and I both work SEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we're both now in the intersection of AI and SEO. And for a lot of people, they might not know. Can you break down what AI SEO means and how it differs from your traditional SEO?
Yeah,
In your
there's a
experience so far?
few things that I've kind of narrowed down to. One, traditional SEO gets you ranked. It makes you show up in Google. Everyone knows this. AI SEO, GEO, whatever you want to call it, gets you recommended. So there's a huge difference how people use it. So ranked versus recommended. The other thing is traditional SEO is for humans. You want human interaction. The more humans click, the better off you perform. It's made for people. AI SEO is made for robots. So the way I sometimes compare it is it's almost like Spanish to French. Like both are Romance languages, but they're totally different audiences. So they're completely different languages for completely different points. And I do think that being said, I think you have to have a good SEO background before you pursue AI SEO. I know a lot of people are very polarized on this, but without a solid SEO foundation, without your SEO being in good shape, your AI SEO is not going to matter. So if you only have so much bandwidth, focus on SEO. And then when you're ready, ASEO comes into play and gets you the last 20%. But 80% of ASEO is making sure your SEO is done and settled. So I think that's like a big point of contention. Yeah, but if you're new,
No, but I
you're a
agree.
startup,
That's how we approach it.
yeah, get SEO in shape. And like anyone that does ASEO should be doing SEO as well. Like they go so hand in hand, but make sure you're attacking the right things. So going after like the cool, sexy new ASEO. Those traditional SEO principles still matter. And I think people are missing that kind of as a whole.
Yeah. Plus traditional SEO and content strategy guides your AI SEO strategy.
Yeah, ASEO kind of helps you. The way I frame it is it helps you control the messaging around AI and like what those bots, what those crawlers find. And if you don't have your messaging well defined and like what you actually want those bots to know about you well defined, there's really no point in like going forward. That's a really, really good point.
So tell us a little bit about how you transition from that traditional SEO into AI SEO for your clients. Like, what's that process like?
People are going to hate this. I went backwards. So I did SEO maybe 10 years ago, and then got back into ASEO and then went back into SEO and relearned how to do SEO. I wasn't doing SEO for the past like 5-ish years, went back into it. The transition for me is basically just taking everything we did for SEO and just twisting it on its head for robots. So like instead of having a backlink, we have a schema markup. Instead of having like a blog post, it's like the like long form written for SEO stuff with keywords. We have a short blog post that's very specific, that's very short, has no or has all HTML markups and has no images. So it's like taking what you're already doing, but like understanding how robots, I always say robots are very, very lazy. So the harder it is for robots to understand your content and get through your content, the less likely they are to cite you. So it's taking this SEO practices and thinking, how would a robot respond to this? Instead of backlink, it wants a schema. Instead of a long blog post form, it wants a short blog post. Instead of like it still wants citation. So it's like the same thing that stayed the same. But like take everything you know about SEO and just twist it perspective into like how would a robot want this? And then also look yourself up. Like a lot of people don't like just go on Perplexity and like look up your brand and see what's showing up and see what it's citing and then figure out why and like reverse engineer it. I don't think a lot of people use things like Peak and Profound. I don't find those that valuable, frankly. I think they give you arbitrary scores and no actual objectives. Just work with an agency or a person and like get actual insights instead of arbitrary scores.
For our audience, can you explain what Peak and Profound is?
Oh yeah, sorry guys. It's they're tools that like there's a million of them out there. The two biggest tools that monitor AI SEO visibility. So it's kind of like think of it like how GA4 is for data engineers. Like you still have it's even worse, like one layer removed, but like you have all the data there, but it doesn't tell you what to do with it. And so you actually need a human to come in and tell you what to do with that data. And without that human layer, without that agency layer, and that strategy layer, it's pretty useless and it's not worth the investment, I don't think.
Okay. So tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Scribe are part of your workflow. What factors do you consider when choosing the right AI tool for your job? And how have these tools changed the way you approach your client work?
This is an interesting question because it's changing all the time. Like if we would have had this conversation last week, I would have had a different answer. This week, GPT 5.1 is out, like things have changed. Traditionally, I use Claude for coding and for copywriting. Now I would use chat for coding instead. I use Gemini for agentic purposes. Now this week, as of today, I've started using chat.
Really?
Because it did a really, so that with the invitation of Atlas. So the thing about having Atlas now, I use Atlas, you can use Comet, like whatever. It can actually go into your browser. Yeah, Comet's like whatever one you prefer or whatever one you already pay for is perfect. And it can go in and actually make those things for you.
For our
that's a good
team,
marketer, right?
You're supposed to. Yeah. So we have, exactly. We're supposed to. I actually pay for both of them, but I use them for different reasons. I've said this before, that I love Perplexity for research, and because we have to do a lot of research for our clients, and it does a really good job. I like that it does all the citations, so it's so you're actually you know where that information is coming from, especially when you're doing a lot of competitive research and things like that. So I prefer Perplexity. We do a mix of writing, and it really honestly depends on what we're doing. We use heavily chat, obviously ChatGPT. It's a huge. We use a lot of the GPTs for different when we need very specialized work. Then we use Claude also for writing, not a lot for coding actually, but recently actually, well, let me rephrase that, for automations, because it does a really good job of if you see something, you can actually sort of copy the idea, and it will break it down and work you through the how to build the automation. So I've been using that a lot. And then obviously, a bunch of other AI things that we use on our day-to-day.
For marketing, do you find you trust Perplexity more because it does show you the citations?
Yes, 100%.
Or is it just, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And that's why I use Comet, right? Because it's like built into that, or it was first?
So honestly, for me, it was because it came out first. So I got it using it right away. And it did a few things. Well, yes, you're right. I got it because I use Perplexity a lot. Then Comment kind of like, so some of the things like we do is like take a website, right? And you have the AI right there that can read the website. So we can do, especially on our SEO competitive analysis, we can do a lot with it, right? and some of our use cases. I haven't tried a lot of Atlas yet, honestly, so I'm not super familiar. The little bit that I've tried was okay, but like it, and one thing that I really liked is that I was able to basically import my entire Chrome setup right into Comet. So all my plugins, it was a really easy transition to just move over. The only things that it did not move over were my tab groups, but then that's easy enough to recreate. But it transferred all my plugins the way I had them set up. It transferred all my bookmarks, all that stuff. So it made it really easy to just move everything and work from Comet. With Atlas, that did not happen. They don't have that easy transfer over. So I'm like, well, I don't want to have to redo all of these. It's a lot of work.
I still have Chrome.
Especially like the plugins, right?
I use it for like
I still use Chrome. Yeah, I still use, for certain things I would just still stay in Chrome.
Switch back.
But yeah, but I don't have to. So in the AI conversation, anything that's got some sort of privacy concern, I'm still gonna go Chrome. I mean, just think of that statement. But
I know.
Because I'm not sure that is also the best option for privacy concerns. But hey, like if I'm really honestly, if you're asking me, I'm like, if I'm doing banking, that's all in Safari.
That's what I do, banking in Chrome still, or I do, and I use it for like my tag manager plugins, like all those things that we're using to like track like pixels and tags. But that's really it. But nothing transferred over, which is annoying.
But with Comet, everything so and I have a ton of plugins, and I have this plugin manager that depending on what I'm doing, I can switch on and off groups of plugins.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's really useful because I don't have to have them all active. But if I'm doing like some sort of SEO thing and I need specific plugins, I can just go and switch to that manage that group of plugins, and it turns them all on at the same time, and then I can switch back to my normal plugins, and then everything else goes away, which is very convenient because if you have 50 plugins, you know how slow that browser is going to be, right? So now my plugin battery and memory consumption, it's a lot lower.
Way better.
And then because we have Chrome and Atlas and Comet, and you have to be super mindful because now you have 3 different browsers open doing different things. They're always consuming memory, and that's a huge slowdown.
I need a new computer. I didn't know that everything transferred to Comet. I would have.
Yeah, it does. You transfer your whole profile. So that's one of my reasons why Comet was just a no-brainer. And then just there, like Perplexity does a lot of good things, and I'm tempted to say, I have done a lot more research with Perplexity. Like it's basically now my default for search. Well, because of Comet and because I just like the formatting of the way they present the information with the citations, the way they structure it. I love that it right away gives you your like suggested next questions or most recommended. It's a little bit different than Google, but it's still very much expanding the knowledge on that topic, which is great for SEO purposes and obviously AI SEO. And it's actually it's made me use Google a lot less.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for SEO people, right? But it's true, right?
But it's awesome. Yeah. And that's the thing I think people are like missing is something I do want to touch on is like someone recently texted me and said that they had an issue with their client. When their client first showed up in ChatGPT, they started having a big influx of direct traffic. And I want to emphasize like that direct traffic is LLMs. Like LLMs are really, really bad. Like people not using Google. LLMs are really bad at referral traffic and like finding out, and this is of course talking about NGA. I don't know what tool, if you use a different tool, I don't know. But in GA4, that's really bad at tracking that referral traffic, meaning if you see a spike in direct traffic after your first GPT or whatever. So
again, for our audience, what's NGA?
Oh, sorry, GA4 analytics for whatever platform you use to track your traffic. If you're seeing a giant dump in direct traffic and you can't figure out where it's coming from, it's likely just whatever tool you use for attribution, just pushing it into that bucket because it can't correctly categorize LLM traffic. I think that'll change. But
It
just
has
actually, is it getting better?
Yeah, because Google Analytics is now allowing you to track your traffic for LLMs. So that's actually very recent. I think, we're talking probably within the last month and a bit, where we actually can now set it up so you can see which LLMs are referring traffic.
What steps would you take to make sure like that's set up properly?
So it's a good question. I don't have the specific steps because I don't, it changes constantly. And I'm dangerous enough, but I'm not the analytics guru. But I know our team has set up now a couple of our accounts to track the LLMs traffic. So I know it's a fairly new, because we just did it for one of our clients.
Yeah.
It's a fairly new thing, but it is now possible, which is huge.
I've tried to set it up as like a channel grouping and just like I have not seen it captured in the way that it should be. So that was 100% a selfish question. I just like don't know what to do about it.
So yeah, we have set it up for 2 of our clients now. So we are slowly now doing it for all of them so we can see.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, once to emphasize the importance of SEO still, it's still nowhere near the traffic that comes from normal, Google search, because it's massive, right? So we're basically talking a bucket of, thousands of impressions and clicks to a couple hundred impressions, or no, not even impressions, because in AI there is no impressions, but recommendations, right? Recommendations and then clicks to, so it's still, day and night in terms of traffic referral from SEO and AIO. But you can track it now. That's the main point.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, you guys should do a blog post about it so we can like drive people to your website and your agency. And mostly for me.
It's good point.
Selfish.
So you mentioned earlier you are building a couple of different agencies.
Yeah.
And obviously this is evolving. But how do you envision the agency of the future, especially now that we talk AI all the time? And like, talk about those 2 or 3 agencies that you are starting?
It's going to be 3 agencies and 1 IP software company. So one's a D2C agency, one's a B2B retail SaaS agency that does like service-based businesses, multi-location businesses. The other one is a agency that serves lawyers and just lawyers. And then the software we're building on top of it is a proprietary software that helps create an automatic dual site architecture for AI SEO and SEO. So that was we're officially patent pending now, is like a way to like automatically create 2 versions of every website. So that's like the software, the IP is going to live in all those agencies. So I think is where this space is going. So everything's going to be AI native. Obviously, we know that. I think much lower headcounts and much like less emphasis on operational creative work and much more emphasis on systems. So everything's going to be when I worked in an agency like 10 years ago, it was a long time ago. We did a lot of onboarding tasks, things like that, and a lot less ongoing automation and optimization. And I think that's going to be where the strength of agencies lies, is in their ability to create proprietary workflows that add value to clients, that are repeatable and always on optimizations. So for example, instead of being a creative agency that's creating, 20 creative pieces a month, you're now doing 200 a week. And like, that's the space that we're going to be in, is like having a systemized way of creating ridiculous amounts of things and then testing them from there. So I do think like people that are doing A/B testing, multivariate testing, things like that are going to be a lot more important as we optimize, because we now have the bandwidth to optimize and layer on that strategy, because most people are not doing the brute force anymore. So I think it's going to be a combination of human power, AI agent power, and then like automation and systems. So if I was an agency owner today, which I'm not until January, I would start writing down I like a month. I would write down every single system that I do and break it down step by step by step, and then automate as many of the systems I can from an agent. I would then create an agent that checks the work of that first agent, because we all know agents lie. Like they hallucinate, they are full of it. And having a secondary agent that checks the work of your first agent significantly reduces those hallucinations. They're still there. You need to know what you're doing, but it really reduces the amount that agents are wrong. The other problem is if you create an agent and then you fire everyone in your company that knows how to do what that agent does, the minute something goes wrong, you're in trouble. So like make sure you at least hire people that like understand what's happening. Agents only work if things are going perfectly right. But the minute like what happened the other, like Cloudflare went down, like the minute something like that happens, so like be careful and don't reduce your headcount so dramatically that like if something goes wrong, you're in trouble. I think it's like agencies are scaling down too much right now and they're gonna have to rebuild. So yeah, I think like strategy first, taste, I think it's gonna be a big thing. Like people's individual taste and like personalities and branding is I think it's gonna be massive. It's gonna be a differentiator. And like proprietary systems, right? Like if there's something that you do that works for you and you know it works and it's a repeatable concept, patent it immediately. It's like $65 to file a patent, you get a lawyer, because I think those things are going to be, the IP is going to be what's the value of the agency going forward.
Gotcha.
That was a lot. Sorry, I threw a lot at you.
No, it's all good. But I do want to ask you if you want to talk a little bit more about agents and, what that means for our clients, your timeline.
Yeah. So right now I'm not doing a ton with agents. Is actually client facing because I'm still testing so many things, making sure like we're exact. And AISO is moving too quickly to do that. But I did today automate reporting. So I had to have an agent going to Shopify, pulling out reporting and automating this like company's Google Sheets and like doing all of the like formulas and things I do to like count inventory. And I did that in like 10 minutes. So I went into Atlas, I put on agent mode in Atlas, and I went through the process manually and then asked Atlas to repeat it, and it does. So now every Monday that client can go in and say, pull our reporting from Shopify, and like Atlas goes in and does it. So that's like a way that I would automate.
So you're putting Atlas into the client's process, or are you doing it?
It has to be, they download Atlas and then I sent them I told them like walk through it with the client on the phone and was like, do the process you usually do every Monday with Atlas open and agent mode. And then Atlas remembered all the steps. Almost like, remember they had that thing where like robots would go, what was it called? Like robots could click around for you and stuff like that. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
Now we're using an agent. What was that called? I don't remember. It seems so long ago.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember either.
I can't remember what it's called, but they used to have like robots doing automation and reporting stuff, and now it's like essentially the same thing, but it's an agent. So you can go into Atlas.
Well, at one point it was scripting, right? Scripting was sort of like the one that was doing that.
Like walking them through exactly. Yeah. So it's like that, but so I just go into Atlas, do the process once, have Atlas or have Chat Atlas record the process, and then repeat it every week. And that's a really easy way to do that and like get your things done. I still would not, this could change in a week. I still would not trust agents completely, especially unless an agent's checking the first agent's work. And even then, I don't think we're there yet.
So explain that when you say an agent checking an agent's work, because that gets really confusing. And I'm sure people are going, what?
Yeah, that's fair. So let's say I have this robot automating reporting, like I just said. I am running that process 20 times and seeing where the agent usually hallucinates and where I pick those spots where it's usually hallucinating, and I have a second agent check it. So let's say I find out the agent does math incorrectly or doesn't actually pull this value. I build a second agent that says, hey, this agent has a tendency to hallucinate right here. Double check and make sure that that math is correct. And that's like all it is.
What do you use to create the agent that's checking, say, Atlas?
That's a good question. The same thing, Atlas.
It's all there.
Yep. Okay. So I build it on itself, and I just like make sure it's a self-reinforcing loop. Okay. The problem with creating agents is like I'll probably run that process 100 times before I feel safe bringing it to the client, just to make sure that we're not like hallucinating, things aren't going wrong. And I think people give up too early with agents and they don't spend enough time perfecting it, and they get like 90% of the way there and decide it's useless. It takes a long time to like make sure that right now they're not hallucinating and like making things up and not working correctly. So I think that'll change. Probably by the time this podcast is out, it'll get better. But probably stick with it. Probably, I'm sure. Yeah, like a week or two, like whatever, a month in now. But I think with agents, I would run it, 50, 100 times before I would pass it on to a client and like trust it. I think people give up. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, use agents to check your own work.
Okay, so because we're talking agents, AI SEO, all these things, obviously, there are a lot of misconceptions. Actually, I was talking about this this morning, but I want to hear your point of view. What are some of the biggest myths that you are encountering in AI and obviously digital marketing, SEO, and how do you usually debunk them for your clients? I'll give you my take on it of what I hear a lot of the times, but maybe we're on a similar journey.
I mean, the first one is the environmental thing. We won't go into it, but like that's a huge thing where I'm like, the environmental thing drives me nuts as a thing. Do your research. I mean, I believe it's real. I believe that AI has a giant impact on the environment. I also believe like jets are much bigger. And so there's that. The second issue is people think they can fire their headcount and like replace an entire agency with one person because we have AI. That's absolutely not true. Everything goes perfectly.
Absolutely
Maybe.
not.
Yeah. But the minute something goes wrong, you're in major trouble. And you can't,
Yep.
unless you know a process well enough to break it down and turn it into an agent, you're not going to do it very well. So I think it gives people an incredible sense of false confidence. The other thing I hear is that like it's not going to replace Google. And it's like, I'm like, no, it absolutely will, in the way that Google is going to have AI mode be its default. So
I think it'll transform Google.
Transform is a better way. Yeah. That's a great way
Transform Google. I don't think necessarily it's going away. But it will transform again, like I just said, the way people are using the tools, it's just transforming the way we search, the way we look for answers. So, well, before we would go and scroll through, hundreds or whatever search results. Now, this is a more direct way to getting that answer. And that's why I said, I don't necessarily go to Google as often anymore because I know I'm going to get in my much
too many
direct route to my answer if I go with Perplexity or ChatGPT. But I personally like Perplexity because I still get, like I said, the citation, so I know where that. So it will definitely transform it. And I'm sure Google, because we've already seen it, Google is doing a lot of things to accommodate that transformation. So I don't think it'll go away. I just think the way we use those tools is just going to be different.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And the last one I hear, I mean, constantly is that SEO is AI SEO, and like they're no different. And like that is just absolutely, in my personal opinion, you can have your own opinion, everybody. I know it's like a big thing. They are absolutely not the same thing. They are similar outcomes, but entirely different audiences. And so, like I said, I do think you have to have an SEO basic. I think you have to have the SEO basics down very, very well. Your messaging down very, very well before you approach this. But it's not the same thing. The SEO, the things that necessarily drive SEO traffic do not drive AI SEO traffic most of the time. There's a few times when it works, but there's been several clients I've had that are in the top 10 in Google and not even showing up in AI at all. So I think that's the biggest misconception, is that they're the same thing. They just aren't. I don't know where that fear comes from. I don't know why that's such a big deal, but they're just not the same thing.
Yeah. So we have a couple that are similar. So one is headcount, 100%. So misconceptions from what I heard in the conversation I was having this morning was, is going to replace people? Is not. Is going to replace how we do certain things, 100%. But it's not meant to, at least not at this point, to replace people. I think, in my opinion, it's the tools are meant to increase the productivity of people.
It's
right?
Like superpowers.
Yeah. So it's giving us superpowers and allowing us to do a lot more with our time. So and you can attest to this because we work in that space. Things that used to take us, we talk about SEO, copywriting, all those things. Those are tasks that used to take a really long time to complete. With all these tools, that number of hours spent per project have dropped significantly. So the way I see it is, it's not meant to decrease headcount. I think it's meant to increase the productivity of your headcount. So now what that means for business, in my opinion, is now for you and me, agencies, people in different professional settings. That means that in the time that used to take me to do one task, now I can do multiple tasks, right? Because I have all these tools working for me. So now, if you translate that for businesses, imagine you can now 5 times your productivity and the productivity of your workforce. So now, if you're running an agency, an accounting firm, legal team, like all of those things that require a lot of research, and now those same people can, instead of serve 5 people a month, now they can serve easily 10. Now you double your productivity, right? That's the way I'm looking at it, and that's the misconception. Oh, I can fire people. I'm like, no. No, you can make those people more productive, and instead of thinking of cost savings, think of increased productivity and output, and now you have a bigger return on investment. Right? So instead of cutting headcount, you can increase your productivity, and therefore your return on investment has got to be a lot more than what you used to have.
Yep.
I mean, and I talk about it with people, and just think of, like, just a quick example, like, to think of an accounting firm, right? You put some of these tools in place, all of the sudden, one bookkeeper, instead of working 5 accounts, now can work 10, right?
Yep.
Now, do you have to fire a bookkeeper? No. Just go find more clients, because now you have the capacity, right? Now you can make significantly more money than what you were doing before with the exact same workforce. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Though the only issue is people that don't adapt with AI, like that productivity gap is going to become so massive that like it's going to be a significant problem.
And I agree with that. So another misconception is that, they're too scared of touching it, right? Because they're scared that they're going to lose something in, and I think it's and I think that's wrong. You need to adopt it, because at the end of the day, it's here. It's going to stay. You can't say is a thing of the future, is a thing of now, and it's evolving also fast. So if it's a thing of now, if you don't start now, your learning curve later on is going to be a lot bigger and a lot more difficult, right? So and that's one of the reasons why we adopted the technologies now so much faster, especially like your business, my business, right? You don't want to be the ones left behind doing traditional SEO the really old way, right? Yep. So those are the misconceptions I taint. And the other one is a lot of business owners, it's like, I can't use AI if I don't know all of it. I'm like, you don't need to know it.
That's a good point.
You need to understand it, but you don't need to know it. Just find the experts that can get you started, right? Find the experts like you, like me, like many others that can come in and sort of plug in the systems into your business. So you can keep doing your business while somebody else is taking care of the technology. Be smart and understand what that technology is doing for you, and where it can go wrong, and have the support in place if it goes wrong. But you don't have to be the one doing it, right? But it doesn't mean that if you're not doing it, you're not implementing it either. I think that's one of the biggest things. And I'm in Canada, right? And so right now, Canada is actually one of the countries with the lowest AI adoption in the world, which is crazy if you think of, that we are basically the second Silicon Valley.
Yeah. That is, why do you think that is?
What I just said, people are too,
you just think people are
scared, too hesitant of, the consequences and ramifications of what it will do to their businesses and to their, the workforce. I think that's the main thing. But yeah, it definitely changes the dynamic of things.
But there's like always a space you can, like, I'm thinking specifically my friends that used to be media buyers. Like media buyers don't really exist anymore. Now they're strategists. Like there's always a space you can move into and use a skill set that you like and that you're good at. And like, I think people just have there's always a way to find that without fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just gotta adjust.
Yeah. It's like, it's not different than you and I talking about digital marketing, right? Like we just evolve with it, right? And I think that's going to happen in pretty much all major professions, just because it's going to be a part of every major business out there.
Yep, which is insane. Yeah. That's a great point.
All right. You just said something. So media buyers, suck media buyers and media in general. But I don't know if, most of us are aware that all these LLM platforms are now talking about introducing ads of some sort into the LLMs. So ChatGPT just announced it's coming in 2026, later in 2026. And I'm sure right behind, ChatGPT would be all the other ones. What do you think is going to be the impact of these in search behavior, talking LLMs and AI optimization? And how do you think that's going to affect conversion rates?
The introduction of ads specifically, or
yeah, and well, specifically to these LLMs and how that's going to affect the the usage, all of that. What do you see?
I think makes me nervous. I think right now we're seeing really high conversion rates from LLMs because people trust it so much. I think with the introduction of ads, that trust is going to go down dramatically, and it's going to become a huge conversion rate issue. That being said, it didn't really happen with Google though, right? Like, I mean, right now CPCs are incredibly high, and Google, no one's searching whatever, no one's clicking on ads anymore. But for like the past, 20 years, we've enjoyed like pretty good trust in ads, especially as they look more like organic search. So I think people will adjust. I think it's like, what do you call it? Like almost like a ad version of like a hedonic treadmill, or hedonic treadmill. Like you will just eventually adjust to seeing ads and it'll become so normal. I don't think you'll register them as ads anymore. So I think traditional paid search is gone as we know it. That's not going to exist. I think meta ads as we know it aren't going to exist. And it's all going to move into these spaces where we have so much data about people, like way more than, Meta has insane data, but like think about how much you told your comment or chatbot. Like it knows so much about you, so much more than Meta ever did, that I think it's just like going to become a very normal, like scarily normal thing in our lives, that like they'll click on ads and convert just as much as they did before. I don't know. How do you feel about it? I'm pretty cynical when it comes to this. I don't think I'm kind of mad about it.
I don't know. I am very interested to see. The main thing is we know it's coming, but we don't know in which form. Right. So we don't know how they're implementing these ads to these models, which then, it's the question is, I think it very much will depend on the implementation. Right? Yeah. Is it going to be very natural? Is it going to be very obvious? And that all will make a significant difference in the impact they will have in what we do with.
Well, there's the question is it going to be a bidding system? Like, is it going to be the same system as like all other ad platforms, or is it going to be built on trust? I'm sure it's going to be a bidding system, but like, maybe not. That's the one thing I really don't. And I made the conscious decision to not get involved in that. Like whatever happens with ads is not my business. I'm going to focus on traditional organic SEO. One of the agencies I'm starting is just have plans to get involved in ads, but I'm consciously deciding to stay in my lane and just continue being flourished and unbothered and just sticking into the organic side for now. I could eat my words in a year, but it just seems so nebulous that I just don't want to deal with it, which might be a bad choice.
Interestingly enough, we were just talking to a client. The news of ads just came out, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That OpenAI announced it for ChatGPT. So my recommendation was, we don't know what they are going to look like, what they are. We just know they're coming. And my recommendation was, because we don't know, put budget aside for it, because we just don't know, right? And we don't know. It might open, it might be a great opportunity, right? Because I'm sure, once it's in, once it goes live, I'm sure they're going to make it extremely cheap for people to buy into it. So I'm thinking it'll be a really good opportunity. But again, we don't know what it looks like. So it will be, it's very difficult to give any advice on it because we know it's coming, we just don't know what it is. Yeah. So it's like, be cautious, but be prepared. Right?
Yeah, like set aside bandwidth or like funds and bandwidth. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Just be prepared. Know that it's coming, right? Like, don't live up in that bubble. It doesn't exist. I don't want to hear about it. Just be mindful that it's out there now. And we'll go from there once we know and we have more information on it.
Yeah, it's scary. That's why I'm choosing not to interact with it. I'm just hiding my head in the sand.
No, go there. Well, we have to go there. Right? So we're working, it's almost the end of the year. We're working budgets and strategy for 2026. So it's again, AI is such a big part of strategy right now. You have to plan for your, now AI content strategy, AI SEO, your user generated or whatever you want to call it, content strategy. You got to plan for your now start thinking about what LLMs ad spending is going to look like and what you to do there. So it's a lot around the space and it's such a big conversation, right? But it's all part of the future, right? And the future is only just a month away basically now, right? Yeah. Because everybody's planning, preparing their budgets and their strategies and but again, it's also something that's evolving so fast. What is true today could be significantly different 3 months from now, right?
I know. Yeah. So, yeah. Just for the record, guys, it is November 20th today. So if I say anything that does not make sense when this comes out, do not hold it against me. Just as a disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly.
For everybody involved.
It's true today. We just don't know if it's true tomorrow. We're living in the present. Trust us for today.
Yeah.
So as we're talking through this AI stuff, most professionals use AI today for really basic tasks. We agree, right? Most people are honestly using it for like the quick question and answer and yeah, exactly, right? But only a very small portion of that market is becoming what we call power users. In your opinion, what separates these small top 10%, if it's even top 10, and how can our audience start moving in that direction?
Man, that's a really good question. That's a great question. I think, so the first thing is there's nothing wrong with using it like Google. That's like your vibe, but it's not going to get you where you want to be. I treat my chat and like every other chat project I have, every other system I have as a coworker, and they each have their own jobs. So I build workflows I repeat consistently. I save prompts to use again and again. I create templates. I use different tools for different things and know like what they're good at. So I think it's, instead of thinking as a one-off prompt, I think of it as a system. So I think of like, okay, every Monday I need to get my life together with my work. My chat is connected to my calendar. It says what's coming up that week, what I need to prep for, makes me a list of things to prep. And I create my own like deadlines that feed straight into Asana. So like I'm building my own project management system because I am bad at that as a person. And then I'm super specific about it. I don't like just throw it a vague, like if I was going to, let's say I'm brainstorming a business. I'm not just going to say, hey chat, I want to start a business. Like that's not, I would say, hey chat, here's my LinkedIn. Here's my skill set. Here's what I'm interested in. What business can I start that will generate X amount of revenue this month? And then I iterate with it. Like I know it's not going to be perfect the first time. And I also don't let it like guide me in a direction I don't want to go. So chat is what I use most often. Chat and Claude both have problems where they'll say, do you want me to do this next? And I like actually sit there and think about it. I'm like, no, I actually don't want to do it next. I want to do this. Instead of just riding the train that chat took me on and like saying, yeah, I want you to do that. I think, do I actually want that? Or is that going to muddy my thinking? So like slowing down and like running chat, not letting it choose for you what you're doing next is like the biggest thing. So like I would say like think in systems, don't think in like one-off prompts, think in things that are relatable, systematic, and things that you do again and again and use it to actually automate things. Be super specific and like put all the parameters. There's a guy, I think his name is Ruben Hassan. I should look up his name. He's got a Substack. And it's really, really good at prompting. So if you want to get better at prompting, there's so many websites out there that you can do to like make sure your prompting is where it needs to be. And then it gets better over time as chat learns you. And then also like just don't expect it to be perfect. Like don't believe it. It's lying to you. It's hallucinating like a good 10% of the time. Check its work. Don't be lazy about it. Like it is something that you can't let run yet. And I think Perplexity does a better job with hallucinations because it has citations. But like just know that like it's a compounding loop of feedback as if it's like an intern. It's not, it's a new, I mean, chat's what, 4 years old? Like it's a new baby. Like treat it that way.
Not even.
And yeah, I think it's really something, yeah, something like that.
2023.
And so, like, really? I feel like it's always been in my life.
Well, it was end of 2022. The official version went out 2023.
That is so crazy. And then I also use it like as the way I use self-checking agents. I use it to fix my own prompts. Like I'll say, hey, that prompt gave me this answer. I wanted this answer. It's so helpful. Yeah. I don't know why people don't do that. And then it like gets better over time. So like I'm like, hey,
you can also
ask this answer, not this one.
Yeah. So you give it a list of, you know, your prompt, and then you can actually turn it around and say, improve these prompts so the output is significantly better. That's or more natural or and it will do it.
And make it better.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's a really, and then I also reverse the prompt. So let's say like, I mean, I would give it like, it's helped me brainstorm a business idea. I would say like, okay, what is wrong with this idea? And like, just like reverse your thinking, and it'll help with that bias that at least chat has, where like it acts like you're the best person alive. Like it has a bias towards like, you did, wow, good for agreement. You. Like, yeah. And like, you can change that now with like its style, but like, I also do that. I also say, give me this in the style of X. So sometimes I do like, give me this in the style of Brene Brown. Give me this in the style of Tim Ferriss. Give me this in the style of like, if like some kind of coach I admire or something like that. And that helps like get that bias out. Brene Brown's my favorite. Yeah. She's very nice.
So which one?
Brene Brown.
Okay.
She's
I don't know if you follow her, but Sabrina Ramalov, I think it's her. Do you follow her?
I don't. Tell me about her.
You should. She's amazing. She's one of like the main people right now on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. She does a lot of content. She puts like 2 videos a day. So she just had one where she actually posted, so you can just go screenshot it. Things to put into your ChatGPT, but we're not into your actual chat when you're right, but into your, what do you call it, in your settings, you know, where you have where you train your ChatGPT, and it's this list of things that to like, so that your output from ChatGPT improves significantly. Anyways, she's all the annoying things about, basically just think of all the annoying things of ChatGPT when you're talking to it, you know, when it repeats a lot, or the dashes, the proper way of like writing, but then nobody uses, right? Remove the emojis. So anyway, so she has this whole list of things that you can just copy and paste and take it and put it into your ChatGPT to make it sound more human.
Yeah, like cut off before it even starts.
Yeah, so it doesn't go there. Yeah, exactly, right? And if you're like copywriting, doing any kind of like content creation like we do, you put that in there and then it stays consistent across the board, instead of having to tell the LLMs every time you're writing or wanting to do something.
That's so interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so actually, we actually do that for, and I think I've done it for pretty much all the ones we use, where we've gone and actually trained on our information, and then we've done it like, you know, if we're doing projects, we're creating projects and training the project on that specific thing to avoid the hallucinations, the repetitive ChatGPT words, like, you know, so many of them, but the dashes, the emoji,
like human stuff,
that we don't use, but you know, as the moment you see them, it's like, oh, that was written by ChatGPT.
Yep.
Okay, tell me, you know, finally getting here to the end, in in this talk of AI and what advice do you want to give to leaders and entrepreneurs who want to future-proof, in a sense, their organizations for like digital marketing, automations, and AI?
That's a really good question. First off, get off LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a echo chamber. And I think it's like, I mean, it has its place, and I like LinkedIn, but it becomes such a crazy echo chamber that like your ideas become very specific and siloed if you're on LinkedIn, which is not great. And like actually talk to people, attend webinars. There's a lot of companies like HubSpot is like really on the front of everything that's going on. I would follow like HubSpot. I would get on X. I know X, like Twitter, is not great, but there's a lot of cool ideas there that you wouldn't find otherwise. And I think just like pay attention to what's happening right now and don't let your ego get in the way. Like, don't let your ego of like, oh, I know SEO. Like, I don't want to learn this. And like, don't think it's a bubble. Mm-hmm. The risk of believing it's a bubble and not leaning in is much higher than the risk of not doing it. So I would just take the risk and like build that space in. Like, let's say like, for example, like the AI ad thing, like you're building in space where if that becomes like such a big deal, you have budget set aside. So I always say the cost of doing business is 5%. So I assume anything I do is going to go wrong 5% of the time. And that's just like a built-in thing that I have, and it's fine, which means that I'm a lot less risk averse than most people are. Cause I know that 5% is going to go badly. So I would just say like, pay attention, get out of your own bubble, and just like start trying things. Like nobody's going to remember if you like, I mean, they might, don't like, be careful, but like, don't, try it, pick up AI, download a browser, like start small things and like pay attention and listen to things like podcasts like this and like get out of your own space and like pay attention to what's happening right now. Don't worry too much about like what's going to happen in a year, because you truly don't know. And I think it becomes overwhelming in that way. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice? You're the agency owner. I'd love to hear. I'll just flip it back on you and hear.
Oh my God. I actually agree with two things. One, get out of your own way. Try things. I mean, get away from those misperceptions of, just embrace it. Embrace the technology is here. If you look at it the right way, it's here to help you, not to put you under. If done right, it will increase your return in investment significantly if you put it in the right places. Stop thinking about headcount and start thinking about how to improve their productivity. I think that's one of the biggest things that we all see it, right? Like, oh, can I then get rid of this and this? I'm like, it's not about getting rid of. Just embrace it. Tell those people to embrace it, so that they can all have jobs in this new age of AI, right? Just like I heard this from somebody else not long ago, but I think it's so true, right? It's not different than when we went from the old age to the industrial revolution, right? Where before everybody was doing everything by hand, but it did. So let's look at the shoemaker.
That's so interesting,
right? Yeah. So you had the shoemaker that before was hammering the shoes and building the shoes, by hand. That smart person didn't stop making the shoe just because we had machines. If that smart person truly was, he would have gone and gotten a machine that helped build the shoes. And now instead of, building one shoe or two shoes a day, he was building 10 pairs a day, right? But he was still the same shoemaker. He was just using the machine to increase that productivity. And therefore, we became more productive, right? It's not different today, right? Now we're saying we have the machines. They're extremely smart. They're still not as smart as us, at least not at this point in time. Not yet. Yeah. And I certainly think they're not going to replace people, because you still need people interactions and human interactions to do daily living. But they can make us a lot more productive, just like the machines did then. Today, the AI is the new age, right? So we had the revolution, now we had the industrial revolution, we had the computer revolution, now we have the AI revolution. And computers didn't take over jobs. The people that embrace the computers took over those jobs and made them better.
Yep.
Right?
They amplified. Yeah. Yep.
Right?
That's
It's the
such a good way
same
to put
thing,
it.
right? So now, now we go into the next stage. It's not going to replace me, sorry. It's going to make me so much more productive and allow me to do so much more than what I used to do, just like computers did before and machines did before that, right? So if you look at it, at least that's the way I'm trying to look at it, and trying people to open their eyes and see, that this is not different. You just have to adapt and get out of your way and move on with it and learn it and embrace it and just use it. And to give you another example, just to see the impact and the power of it today. We talked a lot about ChatGPT and all of these tools, but you see it in video and I follow this guy and he just impresses me. He puts a lot of content out and he did before, but I can only imagine how this is, changed his business and the way he does business significantly. So he creates a lot of content. Every day there is something new from him. He's on YouTube. I follow him. But he's doing this really cool thing now where he still does the long form content, but now he's doing it with his AI avatar. And the way he's doing it is so transparent, but also easy, right? So he has his avatar and he starts his videos like he always has, but he cuts it and says, welcome, I am the avatar, the AI avatar of this person. I'm here to, to tell you about all these things. He usually says, like, talk about AI, right? Well, Julian, the person it's out there in the world helping his clients and the people around him. Like, look at that. Like, it's so transparent, but now he doesn't have to sit and record all of these videos. He is literally out there talking to people, doing the work, right? But he's still putting out his normal, if not more content than he did before, because he has this supplement extra person that he didn't have before, right?
You still get as much value out of the video as you did before.
100%.
Like, does it matter? That's so interesting.
Nope.
Is that the guy that talks about actually, GTM stuff, like talent management stuff?
No.
That guy?
No, and he does it. He's done it so well that honestly, until you pay attention and you hear the intro, you wouldn't know the difference.
That is so interesting,
right? And with these AIs, doing such a great job of sounding natural and real, and look like your face looks real, like you look real. I'm creating content that way as well, right? Like we are creating, like the podcast, it's our original content, but on a daily basis, we are putting content. We're using the tools, right? We're still using the AIs to help us come up with ideas. We're still, auditing all that content, right? So we, in our business for us and for our clients, we create a lot of content. It goes through a review process and then it gets released, right? So ideas come from us and things that we're thinking we want to do, that we then, run through AI to run the scripts and, make them better, all that stuff, do the research, etc. And then, if it's going video content, we use a tool to create, I created my avatar, my social media guy goes and creates the videos, the B-rolls, all that stuff. I don't have to do it. I don't even have to record it anymore. And then he submits it to me. I approve, I watch it, I approve it, bye-bye. It's, if I was doing it, it would take me, easily an hour of my day. Now, he takes a few minutes to put the B-rolls and create the scripts with all the tools. It gets, it gets created and then it gets approved and it gets released. It goes to all our platforms and then we're done.
But it's still like you, right? AI is only
it's
as
still
good
me.
as human input. So it's still your idea, still your ideation. Yeah. So that's like the difference, right? You're still being creative. It's just
it's still my idea. It's still the ideas that we're coming up when we do our content calendar, once a month, right? So once a month we talk about, what are we doing? Sometimes I see something last minute, right? Like a big news came out on something. I'm like, oh, we got to put this in there, right? So then I send that idea to him. He grabs the avatar, right? And then he goes out, right? It's video created, right?
Yep.
So it's just different ways of doing it, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's creating an avatar version of me or you or whoever that can talk about the same things I would have wanted to talk about, but I don't have to sit there and record and do cuts. And I'm like, oh, I screwed up. These avatars don't screw up. So you can just put in the idea and then they're done, right?
Especially if you're like...
Looks good, off you go. Right?
Yeah. Especially if you're transparent about it. And like no one thinks, everyone knows it's not you, but no one cares because the value is the same. You know?
Yeah, I find it really funny because I tell people, I'm like, you'll know it's not me. And it's the funniest thing. It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, listen, I'm not shy of saying, I am an immigrant. I have an accent, but you go listen to my avatar. It doesn't have an accent.
No accent. That's so funny.
But it is still me. It's still my idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it's just an interesting bonus question.
Yep.
Ready?
I guess so.
Last one. So what's one area within our digital AI world that we're talking about that you think it's underrated right now and that you think holds huge potential in the next 1 to 3 years?
I mean, the first one is obviously, I have two. The one is the software I'm building. It's an AI native infrastructure. So I think a lot of people are trying to duct tape AI in their systems instead of just swiping it and starting over. So do that. Then the other one I think is super underrated is synthetic user testing. So right now, when someone comes up with an idea and you, or like a creative, let's say you're an ad agency, you have a creative, you want to see how well that creative is going to respond. You can create like millions of synthetic customers from AI and say, how would this customer respond to this ad? And I think that's a way underutilized right now is like, you can actually say, my customer is this. And like, you have to be sure who your customer actually is. You can't make it up. So like, I know who my customer actually is. I know who I want to respond to this ad. Would this customer respond to this ad? And if not, what can I change? I think that's like a majorly underutilized space right now for agencies and things like that, because you can test at scale with synthetic customers. And there's been a study that came out that I can find the study link and send it to you, that it's like 90% accurate, like with actual customer profiles. So it's actually like a pretty accurate way to test enormous amounts of content. Does that make any sense? I feel like 100%. Isn't that cool? No one's talking about it. I don't know why.
I have heard of, talking to the AI and asking if it's going to be, I mean, we all have heard people saying, hey, go tell them I have this customer, help me create the message, but to flip it and say, hey, will this be a good ad for this audience going, like you just, I think that's actually pretty amazing.
Yep. I can send you
a different kind of usage,
in the notes, right? But it like has an outline of it and like how well it defined that study. Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know why no one's using it. I don't know why no one's created a tool that has done this yet at scale, but it would be really interesting.
Awesome. Well, Kate, thank you.
This was awesome.
We went an hour and 10 actually.
We do that.
Who knew? It's been fun. I love the conversation. I think, it's such a big topic. We can keep on talking for hours and hours. Yeah. So I love to have you back, maybe in the new year, to see what's changed and kind of do a retrospect. Because, hey, we talked about this and this. What's still true and what isn't? And if it isn't, then what's new? That would be fun.
That'd be so interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me pick your brain. It's so interesting as I'm like moving into this new chapter of like not knowing what's going to happen. It's really helpful to have someone who's done it before. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. For everybody else, thank you for being here with us for this last hour and 10 minutes. We love the conversation. I will leave all the information, extra links in the notes. And can't wait to see you again in our next episode. Have a good one.
Thank you.